Now, if you live with diabetes, or if you know somebody who lives with diabetes, if you want to know more about diabetes, how do you get yourself a bit of an education in it? Well, next week is going to see World Diabetes Day. And in advance of it, there's a special event which is taking place for those people who might be living with a condition who are or are interested in it. Amanda Epps is an adult diabetes specialist nurse, and she's on the line to tell me a little bit more about it. And, as you're about to find out, she has a particular reason for having an interest in diabetes as she does. Amanda, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. Let's hope it stays that way for everybody in these weird times that we've got. Now, I did say that you have this particular association with diabetes. You don't have the condition yourself, but somebody very close to you does.
Yeah, my son has type 1 diabetes. He was diagnosed when he was 7 years old. And also my brother and sister both have type 1.
Do we know what causes diabetes?
So there's multiple different types of diabetes. So you have type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune condition where the body kind of just attacks the pancreas and destroys the insulin-producing cells. And then you have type 2 diabetes, which is more about insulin resistance. And so people have trouble with insulin resistance. And you also have genetic types of diabetes. So there's lots and lots of different types of diabetes.
Now, you mentioned that you've got diabetes in more than one person in your family. So is that genetic? Is it part of your son's makeup?
You are predisposed. You could be predisposed to getting type 1 diabetes, but usually something will trigger that response. So you're not necessarily going to get it just because your family member has it, but you are high risk.
Now, lots of people know the term diabetes. It does get talked about quite a lot. The word insulin gets talked about quite a lot. From your point of view, professionally, as a specialist nurse, do people really understand the effect of diabetes on people? Or are we sort of walking around this kind of with blinkers on?
I think there are lots of people living with diabetes, and I think lots of people don't understand the different types of diabetes. And so sometimes things are misunderstood in the media. And I think we need to raise awareness, and that's what World Diabetes is all about.
So World Diabetes Day takes place next Saturday. The 14th of November is the date for the diary. What's going to be going on?
So there's a United with Diabetes conference, and that's at 9:30 in the morning. It's virtual, obviously. Mm-hmm, we can't all get together. And it's all about learning about how to control your health and your diabetes journey. So there's virtual theatres that go through understanding diabetes, managing diabetes, living with diabetes, and the diabetes community. There's a tech sort of dropping zone where you can learn about all the different gadgets and see demonstrations. And there's also networking rooms where they can all have conversations. So,
Amanda, it sounds as though this particular conference is preaching to the converted. It's an event for people who've either got diabetes or work in the medical sector and perhaps have a particular interest in diabetes. Are you saying that actually the people who've got diabetes are some of the people who don't know what to expect and don't know what support's out there for them?
I think when you live with diabetes, the more education you can get, the better. Great conferences like this are fantastic. They're free, and you can learn all about your condition.
And that's an important thing. Otherwise, where do people find out about diabetes? Does it take conferences like this?
We have diabetes specialist nurses. I run a forum for diabetes specialist nurses. There's like 1,600. You can get advice from your GP. There are well-known charities like Diabetes UK, Diabetes Wellness Research Foundation, who's actually doing this United with Diabetes conference, all sorts of places.
Is it possible to have diabetes without realising it? Or at least,
yes, absolutely.
Really?
Type 2 diabetes, or there are 232 million adults currently undiagnosed in the world. So,
good Lord.
Yeah, so 1 in 10 people are living with diabetes. There's 463 million adults expected to rise to 578 million adults by 2030, and that's one of the statistics from World Diabetes Day Awareness Campaign.
Do we know why that figure is going up at such a rate? Is it something to do with the way we live our lives?
Potentially, sometimes some types of diabetes there might be an impact on diet and lifestyle, which might cause an increased risk of those types of diabetes. But type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition, and that's increasing as well, and we don't know why.
Okay, so the way in which we live our lives could certainly be a factor. I want to sort of take this down to baseline level, if I can. I've had a tub of porridge with plenty of sugar in it this morning because I have, on occasions, a bit of a sweet tooth. I've got a satsuma, which I've been consuming since the show started this morning. If I was somebody living with diabetes, what would eating something which is admittedly full of natural sugars, like a satsuma, what would that do to me?
So it depends what type of diabetes you have again. If you have type 1 diabetes, any sugar that you consume, you need to replace the insulin that your body's not going to make. So if you don't produce insulin, you need to inject insulin. So for the porridge or the satsuma, you would probably need to inject some insulin.
Wow.
People with type 2 diabetes, it's more like insulin resistance, and so they might take tablets. They're on insulin as well, but they might take tablets to make them more sensitive to the insulin that they produce.
And having these injections on a regular basis, I used to work with somebody actually in radio who had to inject himself with insulin on a fairly regular basis, and it was a very strange experience until we got used to it, where we'd walk into the studio and suddenly found him with his trousers round his ankles, and then we'd understand why, because he'd got an EpiPen out, he'd got a syringe in, and if he didn't take the insulin injections at a certain precise point, he could be in real trouble. Do you think society recognises the circumstances of diabetes, which is now seen to be a very common thing? Do we treat people who live with diabetes in the right way now?
I think the media sometimes can mix up the types of diabetes. So your friend would have had type 1 diabetes, and so who needs to be thinking about this every minute of their life. Like my son, wake up in the morning, do a blood sugar, see what that is. If it's high, we need to correct it with insulin. We need to work out how many carbohydrates in his food. We then need to work out how much insulin we need for those carbohydrates. Then we need to find out what's he going to be doing for the day. Is he going to be doing sport? Is he going to go and walk to school? We need to adjust the insulin, depending on what's happening there. And then same again at lunchtime, same again at dinner time, same again with any snacks.
So this is a condition which is truly invasive into the way that somebody lives their lives. And by extension, you may be a professional in your own right, but you're also a mum. So this dominates your existence as well as your sons and the other family members that have got it.
Absolutely. I don't think I've had a full night's sleep since he was 7.
Is that right? Good Lord. Good Lord. OK, well, you've got World Diabetes Day taking place on Saturday, November the 14th. If there are people who are living with diabetes and their families, if there are people who want to know more about diabetes, dare I say it, if there are people who've got suspicions that maybe they are living with diabetes without having had any diagnosis of it, where do people join in with this particular conference that's taking place, and how do they do that, Amanda?
So they just need to pop along to unitedthroughdiabetes.com and register for the event, and then come and see us on the 14th. It starts at 9:30 online, and you can see me. I'm doing a session.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
United Through Diabetes. Did you say .com or .com?
Yeah.
UnitedThroughDiabetes.com. Amanda, it's a fascinating subject. I think we do take it for granted because the term diabetes is used quite freely. The term cancer is used quite freely. And yet we really don't understand as a general public, as a general community, the effects of diabetes. When you said you haven't had a full night's sleep for such a long time, I don't think people consider that and the ramifications of that on family life, as well as the life of the individual with diabetes. And you don't have diabetes, yet it's having a big, extensive effect on your life.
It's my life. 24/7. I work in diabetes and I live with diabetes. My son lives with diabetes.
Well, let's hope that we can build the awareness, build perhaps an understanding of what diabetes means in our communities, wider or otherwise. It's good to talk to you. Good luck for that session next Saturday, by the way. No nerves whatsoever. No pressure.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Amanda.
Okay, bye.
Bye.